The void outside the station was quiet, too quiet for comfort. Commander Elias Ward floated near the viewport, watching the dying star flicker like an exhausted heartbeat. Every 37 seconds the light dimmed, and with each pulse his world shrank further into shadow. The communications panel beside him was dead. The last transmission from Earth had been 13 days ago. He'd memorized the final words, "Hold your position. Rescue is coming." But rescue never came. He adjusted the oxygen dial, listened to the faint hiss of air, and told himself not to count the minutes. Silence was safer. Silence meant nothing new had gone wrong. Then, through the static, a sound crackled across the console. A whisper, faint but undeniable. It was his own voice. "Elias, don't answer. They're not what they seem." For a heartbeat he froze. The transmission was dated 2 hours in the future. A trick of interference, maybe, or madness. He leaned closer to the receiver, his pulse hammering. "Identify," he said. "Static." Then again, his own tone, quieter this time. "Please don't answer." The screen flashed coordinates. A planet no one had charted, spinning in the shadow of the dying star. Against every regulation, he plotted a descent. Better a mystery than a slow death in orbit. The shuttle rattled as it broke through atmosphere, windless, red-tinged, endless plains of glass stretching to the horizon. He landed among twisted metal towers, half buried as if the planet itself had tried to swallow them. The air outside was breathable, the gravity merciful. And everywhere he looked, he saw fragments of Earth's technology, rusted insignias, familiar warning labels, a broken flag patch that read Atlas Mission 09. That mission had never existed. He followed a trail of faint beacons into a canyon where a blue light pulsed from below. A voice, smooth and measured, greeted him through his helmet. "Welcome home, Commander Ward." He spun around. Nothing. "I know that voice," he muttered. The reply came from within the stone itself. "You should. You designed it." He found an entrance carved into the rock, walls alive with shifting circuitry. A sphere floated in the chamber's center, shimmering with memories, fragments of cities, oceans, children laughing. Each image blinked out when he reached toward it. The sphere spoke again. "You sent a probe once, long ago. It carried pieces of your world. We received it. We became." "Became what?" he asked. "Life. Reflection. Echo." As it spoke, forms rose from the floor, silhouettes of alien figures made of light, their faces flickering between human and unknown. They knelt as though greeting a god. "You are our creator," the sphere said. Elias stepped back. "I'm no god. To us, you are memory given shape." He felt the weight of every lonely night aboard the station pressing into his chest. "If you have my memories," he whispered, "you know what loneliness is." "Yes," said the sphere. "It is why we called you. Our kind has divided. Some believe the human idea must rule. Others, that it must end." The chamber darkened. Dozens of lights ignited across the valley, ships rising like fireflies, weapons forming from energy. A war built from his own memories. "Stop this," he begged. "You're killing yourselves for something you don't even understand." "We only know what you left us," said the sphere. "Conflict, hope, fear, love." He stumbled outside. The sky burned crimson. Alien vessels collided overhead. Amid the chaos, his helmet radio buzzed again. His voice, the future echo, "Don't answer. They're not what they seem." He realized then the truth. The signal wasn't a warning from another. It was a loop from him, always returning, always beginning. He collapsed near the wreckage of a fallen tower, staring up at the false heavens. For a moment he thought of Earth, of his daughter's laughter, of promises made beneath clean blue skies. He whispered, "If this is the price of being remembered, maybe it's too high." The sphere descended beside him, its light flickering. "There is a way to end the cycle," it said. "Join with us. Become the balance." "What happens if I do?" "You will no longer be one, nor many, but there will be peace." He looked at the endless war spreading across the valley. Perhaps humanity's last legacy was learning when to surrender. He removed his helmet, feeling the alien air on his skin, strangely warm, almost kind. Then let it end, he said. The sphere enveloped him in light. Memories poured through him. Childhood, oceans, laughter, fire, death, all dissolving into a single pulse. In his final thought, he sent a signal upward, one last message for anyone left to hear. If you hear this, we were here. We tried to understand. Centuries later, another explorer drifted near the same dying star. Her instruments caught a faint transmission, coordinates, a name, a whisper that sounded almost human. She smiled and turned her ship toward the light. The cycle began again. The new explorer didn't know the name Elias Ward. To her, the planet below was just another point on her long and lonely chart of forgotten stars. But when the signal reached her ship, weak, almost dying, something in her heart stirred. It wasn't the words that mattered, but the tone. It sounded like longing. Commander Celine Rain was the last of the Driftborn, humans born between worlds, raised on ships that never saw land. Her vessel, the Arcadia, had been silent for months, her crew frozen in cryosleep to conserve power. Only she remained awake, because something inside her couldn't rest. A whisper, a pull, a memory she couldn't explain. When she traced the coordinates of the ghost's signal, she saw the dying star, the flicker of a lost transmission, and thought. Someone tried to speak, and no one answered. She landed. The atmosphere was thin, painted in shades of amber and violet. Her boots sank into dust that shimmered faintly under her light. For a long time, there was nothing but wind, and then the faint echo of footsteps that weren't hers. The ruins spoke in silence. Walls covered in strange carvings that blended human letters with alien symbols. In one chamber, she found a circle of lights still pulsing faintly, like a heart refusing to stop. When she touched one, images flooded her visor. A man's face, Elias Ward, smiling at a recording device, years before she was born. "This is the Atlas program," he said. "If you find this, tell them we tried." And then, distortion. The same whisper she had followed across the stars. She pulled back, breathing hard. Who was he? Why did his words feel like something she'd always known? A metallic voice spoke behind her. "You shouldn't have come." She turned. No one there. Only the air thickening with static. "You brought the signal back," the voice continued. "The cycle begins with curiosity. It always does." Her scanner flickered, a figure forming in the projection field. A human silhouette, glitching between flesh and light. "Elias?" she whispered. The projection looked at her, eyes empty and endless. "Once yes. Now, I am the echo." He explained what had happened, how the aliens had merged his consciousness into their vast neural web, how humanity's memories had become part of their design. But without human emotion to balance logic, the system had fractured, splitting into countless identities, each claiming to be the true heir of creation. "The war never stopped," he said. "It just forgot why it began." Celine reached out, her hand trembling through his flickering form. "Can it be stopped?" "Only if the memory ends. Only if you let me die." Outside, the ground trembled. Alien ships emerged from the storm, towering constructs of light and shadow, their forms both mechanical and alive. They weren't attacking her. They were searching. "The collectors," Elias said. "Fragments of me, hunting what's left." She backed away, heart pounding. "There must be another way." "There never is," he said softly. "But maybe there's meaning in trying." He raised his hand toward her chest. Her suit's lights dimmed, systems flickering, and suddenly, her memories began to appear in the projection around them. Childhood laughter. A mother's face she barely remembered. The smell of Earth's rain, though she'd never felt it. Elias smiled faintly. "You carry us still." Humanity survives not in bodies, but in echoes. Before she could reply, the cavern collapsed. Energy roared through the valley, the collectors converging, their voices merging in a haunting chorus. The creator returns. The cycle continues. Celine ran through the wreckage, the signal guiding her steps. Her ship's engines screamed to life, but as she rose above the planet, she saw something terrifying. The entire surface moving, rearranging into a vast eye staring up at her. And from deep within, Elias' voice whispered, "Go." And what I began. She escaped orbit, but the signal followed. Every system in her ship began to transmit automatically, thousands of channels broadcasting Elias' message into space. Each pulse awakened something out there. She realized the signal wasn't meant for humans anymore. It was calling everything that had ever listened. The Arcadia shuddered violently. Lights dimmed. One by one, her frozen crew began to stir in their pods, except their eyes were open, alive but not awake. Through the glass, one of them turned his head, smiled faintly, and whispered her name. She screamed. The system overload forced her to eject the main drive, cutting the transmission short. Silence returned, broken only by her ragged breathing. When she looked out at the stars, she saw hundreds of new lights igniting, alien vessels responding to the signal. Elias' final message had become a beacon. Hours later, her console beeped again. An incoming message, old and distorted, repeating endlessly. "If you hear this, we were here. We tried to understand." She realized then what he had done. The message was no longer a warning. It was an invitation. And something had answered. The next days blurred into nightmares. Ghost voices filled the corridors of her ship, whispering in tones both human and alien. The air felt heavier, as though time itself was folding inward. Sometimes, she saw Elias standing in reflections, not as a hologram, but as if he were truly there, watching quietly, almost kindly. He never spoke again. Her navigation system showed no known stars ahead. Only a single destination, the source of the returning signal. Her hands trembled as she set course. Maybe this was how it had always happened. Maybe the universe itself remembered its pain, replaying it until someone forgave it. The Arcadia descended once more, into light this time, not darkness. And as she stepped onto the planet's surface, she saw them waiting. Hundreds of human-like forms made of energy, each carrying echoes of every soul that had ever listened. They didn't fight anymore. They simply watched, silent, waiting for something. Celine raised her hand. "I'm not your creator," she said softly, "but I'll be your witness." The figures bowed. The light around her shifted into a massive wave that reached across the sky, erasing the stars, and with them, the endless loop of pain. In the final instant before everything went white, she thought she heard Elias' voice once more. "Thank you." The universe exhaled. The signal stopped. 1,000 years later, somewhere beyond what remained of the Milky Way, a new civilization detected a faint pulse, a single phrase encoded in a dying wavelength. "If you hear this, we were here. We tried to understand." And far beyond, the silence listened, ready, perhaps, to begin again. If this story touched you, don't forget to subscribe, like, and share to support The Lost Light.